Thank you, everybody. Welcome on board, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all. Let's give everybody else another 2 minutes and we'll get started, everybody. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Welcome on board, everybody. It's going to be an exciting night. Let's go, people. Thank you, everybody. Let's go. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. Welcome on board. In the next 2 minutes, let's give everybody else 2 minutes to join us real quick. Thank you, everybody. It's going to be a blast, folks. Short, swift, effective time, folks. Hopefully, we can make your evening the best one ever. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, everybody. Let's give everybody else another 1 minute and we get started, folks. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all. Welcome, everybody. Final 1 minute. We get started 7:05. Thank you, everybody, for joining. It's going to be a fun one this evening, folks. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. It's going to be an interesting topic tonight, folks. You all will love this topic. Third party risk, folks. Thank you, everybody. "30 seconds to go. Let's go, people." Thank you, everybody. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining. This is going to be one of those exciting evening, folks. At the end of today, I hope we can make your evening one of those evenings that is very impactful, that you can add some additional tools to your arsenal of professional um, knowledge in general. So let's just have fun, folks. In the next couple of minutes, some of you would have a tool, new skills you can leverage anywhere in the world. This is a huge topic. I think we need to all have a good knowledge of because we can leverage it big time. It's going to be all about third party risk today. And if you don't mind, let's start with please be gracious, give us some likes, click the notification so that we can have more people visit the YouTube channel also as we grow in membership. So thank you everybody for doing that. Let's just go ahead and just click like. Just give us a 5 seconds just to click the like button if you don't mind. Also, do me a favor if you don't mind. Can you just type and chat something? Just say, hey, hello, good evening, what's up? We're going to do that a lot in this program. We do that in all our programs. We interact and make sure it's something as fun as possible. So let's see. Let me see. Let me see. Can we say good evening? Hi, everybody. Let's do that together real quick. Let's do that for the next 1 second. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all. Good evening. Thank you, Neji. Thank you, Manuela, Dupe, Rutimi, Deb, Atom K, Ramsfeld, Neji, George, Adesomi. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining. So let's talk about tonight, man. Folks, believe it or not, the next few minutes would add immediate value to you in terms of your communication. If you are preparing for interview, I can bet you this will be some arsenal within your toolkit that you can leverage immediately. Today was an exciting one. A few of our folks in our community got offers, so that's great. We're always celebrating that. We're always excited about that. So that's a good one. So whatever we're doing is working. We know that we are not of the illusion. Everything is going to be perfect. We know we have to learn. We have to fine tune, and that's what we're doing here. If all you do at the end of the next 1 hour is you had one extra layer of knowledge to your tool, to me that's a win. All right. So tonight is going to be something I can guarantee you if you follow us in the journey, and please, I challenge you also, the internship program is not designed for you to just show up 1 hour on Wednesday. On Saturday is always fun because it's like our working session where we work together as a team. So in the next 15, 20 minutes, a lot of us will understand the whole concept of third party risk. Now, don't overthink it. When we started our journey together as a team, the first topic we talked about was IT risk assessment. And we talked as a team and said, hey, risk assessment is a big one. It's going nowhere. It's a huge piece of the puzzle because it's not enough to have assets in your business. But if you cannot continuously assess the risk, potential likelihood of the risk occurring, the impact on your business, if it's not an ongoing thing, then honestly, it's not a function of if, it's when. So all of us know at some point there's going to be crisis. The question is, regulators mostly, auditors, internal, external. One of the first questions they will always ask is, was the risk assessment done? If the answer is no, then automatically you lose credibility. So it's just going to be more holes we keep digging for ourselves. So we can agree on that. Okay. The next thing we did was within the risk assessment, in our working session, we actually did a real risk assessment. Now, believe it or not, one thing I challenge everybody in our program is take ownership. Believe it or not, every one of those projects, they are real projects somebody did. Today, one of our team members, we went through actual risk assessment again in the organization, right? It's the same thing. It's not going to change. Risk assessment is not going to change. Then we went further to say, okay, at the end of the risk assessment, we said, okay, let's go into another topic, which was week two. Week two, we now said, let's go to an environment and understand the risk around the environment. They would have what we call security controls. Don't overthink it. Security control would be something as simple as before you grant somebody access to the internet, they should have user ID and password. I think that's a no brainer. Our system should have encryption, right? That's a no brainer. We could also say we should have assets inventory, meaning you need to have a list of your assets. We would also say, well, those assets you have, all of us in our own front, we have our digital devices, our children's laptop, our children's tablet, our fridge, our TV. Those are your assets, right? And I can ask you, give me an inventory of your digital assets. I bet you if you go to your ISP, their software, they would have a list of all your assets there. Check it tonight if you have time. All of us have it, but most of us are not conscious of it. It's there. You can see all your assets there. So those are your list of assets in general. So some of you say, well, I have 9 devices. Believe it or not, you might be shocked to see how many devices you have connected on your network right now in your home. And we said, okay, we want to map all of those security controls in our business into a best practice framework. The reason it's smart to do that is one of those leading framework is called NIST framework, right? Cybersecurity framework. And it has so many different areas in NIST. But we said, let's use one of the framework and map our controls. Now, you might ask me, why do we care about mapping it? It's smart because it gives you immediate credibility, right? To say, well, you know what we're doing is mapped to a leading framework, which is brilliant, really. Then when we did that, we also did something we sneaked in. We said, let's have a maturity assessment. Don't overthink it. If you go to the doctor's place, you and I would say, they would ask us, all right, pain level 1 to 5. 5 means the highest. Well, let's go for those of us that are foodies. So if you go to a restaurant, they will say, well, the spice level 1 to 5. 5 means the highest, 1 means the lowest. So it's the same concept. So the same thing when we do maturity assessment, depending on the model we use, it's mostly 1 to 5. Some might say 1 to 3, but we get the gist. 1 means you're horrible, 5 means you're pretty good. So we agree on that, right? So we mapped our NIST framework to a maturity model called CMMI, which is a globally recognized one for processes also. So we leverage that. Those were the 2 projects we've worked on so far. Now, ladies and gentlemen, every one of those projects, if you're on this call, I expect you to speak about it in interviews. Now, spoiler alert, some of you might not know. A lot of you now, if you are part of our Lions Den community, people just go watch our Lions Den. I had a great man call me 2 days ago or so and said, hey, I've never done GRC. I just went to listen to the Lions Den and I applied. To my surprise, I've been moved to the next stage. All right, I'm not saying do that, right? I always recommend always go the extra mile, learn the skill, do extra work, be part of our internship, be part of our program, get more knowledge and resources. But anyway, this gentleman, he made it work. My kudos to him. Amazing, amazing luminary. Those are the kind of things I love because you know what? I'll support anyone that's if that's your goal, go all in, right? Now, I say that to say every one of these examples, take it, own it, take it like yours. This is yours. This is really designed for you so that when you have interviews, you can speak intelligent to it. And I challenge you also, don't bail out on the working sessions on Saturdays because this is your opportunity to actually work with others. It's just 1 hour, really, but it's always effective because now we get to work with other professionals in the same field. Once again, if you don't mind, please give us a like. We would appreciate that. It will help our channel to move forward a lot. So thank you. Let's do that together if you don't mind. All right, tonight is going to be big deal. One of the biggest risk in the world today. 2023, the big four in their analysis, I believe the top risk, global risk, is third party risk. All of us can understand why this is the case, right? Because think about it. If you own a business, yes, you can control your own business, your process, your environment. Guess what you cannot control? Your third party vendors. So if I'm using Amazon as my cloud service provider or Azure or Google Cloud, guess what? I can control my own business. Guess who I cannot control? I cannot control the vendors or third party I'm working with. I cannot, right? So I'm at the mercy of them. But there are some things we can do, some due diligence we can work on as a community to make us equally effective. So tonight, I'll run through some of those things generally. Don't let's overthink this. Let's chat. Let's think about this together. How many of us can tell me there's a joke? The poster child for third party risk in the US. There's a company that all of us, you might not, it's people use them as the boogeyman now for third party risk because they got screwed because of a vendor they use. Let me see. Can you guys type? Let's see what you got. Let me see what. Thank you so much. Somebody said Target. Yes. Target happens to be like one of, and let me tell you what happened in Target. I would have loved to play the video, but YouTube has some regulation and guidelines, so I don't want to infringe into privacy stuff. But let me give you the gist about Target store. What happened was simple. Target brought a HVAC servicing company, your AC servicing company, to come and do regular routine servicing. And what happened was that they had to log into Target's network. Unknown to Target, there was a backdoor in a server somewhere that a malicious code was installed. As a result, it compromised over 100 million records of customers. They were fined over $20 million. It was a national disaster, really. Very bad publicity, you can imagine, right? So it's a big deal. So that makes all of us know that, look, this is serious stuff because you're not going to get away with it. Regulators will come after you. Class action act suit will come after you by the customers, and it's bad publicity. Your stock is going to tank, so you're going to lose money. So it's a big risk. So now, in an interview setup, I want to make sure when you go through this exercise today, I will just talk through it, and we start the practical a little bit. Then Saturday, make sure you join. Let's just execute. Just have fun doing it. Okay. So let's get into the weeds of it. I'll be very quick, straight to the point, hopefully as effective as possible to just give you all some good context around it. So let's talk about life cycle of third party risk management in general. All right. So anytime you hear the word third party risk, and I know for some weird reason, sorry guys, the slide presentation thing seems a little bit might not be clear with you, but let me talk about it. I've sent the PowerPoint to you so you have access to it, so don't worry. So, what are the risk identification in general? Of course, like any business, we have to start by saying what are the potential risks, right? We have to think about what are the potential data breaches, meaning issue of patient data being improperly disclosed. In our case, we've been using healthcare, and I'll stick with that. In this case, also, we talked about potentially non-compliance with HIPAA. For those of you joining our call for the first time, all our project has targeted healthcare by design. We said, all right, a company that initially brought in MRI, CT scan, and the first thing they had to do was risk assessment. And you know why? Because those devices will be connecting to their network, their public network. As a result of that, they had to do risk assessment, right? So in the world of third party also, we still need to think about risk identification. There should be definitely risk assessment, meaning before our partnership, you're storing our potential patient's record, we have to still do a good risk assessment. We have to definitely do due diligence, right? And that is so significant because at the end of the day, people are going to ask you, was there due diligence done, right? You have to do a risk evaluation of the vendors. And hanging with me, in a few minutes, you'll see some practical examples of how this applies. You have to implement certain controls, security controls, to make sure that any gap identified, we can potentially mitigate those gaps. Then, of course, like anything else, we have to continuously monitor it. You know, one thing that is big in the healthcare industry is, it's always extremely important to do due diligence focused on cybersecurity, compliance history, and customer review. Because if a company you're bringing in has a history of HIPAA violation of the government regulation around patients' record or confidentiality, if they have a history of customer review on compromising their data, then that is the problem for you immediately, right? So we have to think about that. Contract negotiation, let's think about this real quick. At the end of the day, every third party, you have to negotiate your contract, right? You have to have master service agreement. Let me pause. When we talk about contract negotiation, tell me the departments that typically are involved. Can somebody just type real quick? Now we are talking about contract negotiation. Can we just type which department are we thinking about now? Anytime we think contract, let's what do you guys think? Anytime we think contract, what department are we thinking about in our organization? Go ahead and type. Thank you. Perfect. Legal, definitely legal. Which other department might be? Procurement, thank you. Legal for sure. All of us must prepare our mind for that. Never get into those contract negotiations without your legal team. Some people will call it your general counsel team, whatever they call it, legal general counsel team. They have to be involved in the contract. Procurement is also a big deal. So whatever your company calls it, they have to be involved in the process. So you're not a lawyer, so nobody's expecting you to be the one responsible for that. Then of course, many times you put a clause to say I can audit you at any point in time, meaning I can go in and check and make sure the appropriate oversight is being done in your organization. Then we talk about encryption, breach protocol, meaning if there is a potential breach, what is the notification process around it? Because remember again, it's not a function of if, it's when. Everybody's going to go through a breach. In the words of the CEO of Cisco, one of the largest network companies in the world, he said there are two types of companies. One, those that have been attacked. The second is those that have been attacked but are not aware they've been attacked. Some years back, months actually, a client of mine, Fortune 100 company, they have a plant they've been using for over 10 years. And my team and I did a network scan. And to their surprise, they never knew about this. There have been a consistent attack from an IP source in from Southeast Asia, right? And they were never aware of it for over 10 years. You know, consistent traffic from this same set of IP, right? These same servers trying to ping into their system, their network for over 10 years. And the record is there, the logs are there, and they were never aware of it. So all of us are going to be attacked. Your home is currently being attacked. You have no clue because now they are building all these bots that can attack without, and they are very cheap. AI bots that are just attacking. So if you are vulnerable, you're not using sensitive password, you're not locking your password, then I'm telling you, it's a function of when. So just something to be mindful of. Okay, ongoing monitoring is a big one. At any point in time, ongoing monitoring is a continuous thing in any environment. Okay. Risk mitigation. So, we can all agree, yes, we've identified risk, and I'll challenge everybody on this call. Every time, one of the things in most interviews, they will tell you that, okay, walk me through your experience with remediation, right? So it's not enough to tell me, okay, there is a risk. Yes. All right. What are the mitigation strategy to potentially prevent this risk, right? So we have to understand that. For example, regular testing makes sense. Having a backup makes sense. Having a recovery process if there was an incident makes sense. Ongoing assessment or pen testing. Assessment is just saying, hey, we're checking for potential weakness. Pen testing is the same thing, right? I'm simulating an attack to your network to see if there is a weakness, and I'll highlight those weaknesses. And ladies and gentlemen, don't overthink all this. All of these are tools mostly used. They run the tools in those network. It spits out a report. Most times, you interpret the report. That's what you do, right? None of us is going to manually pull anything, really. So we're just analyzing the report at the end of the day. All right. Okay, let's go to the next one. Every one of us, no matter how lovely a company is, there's going to be a termination process, right? So I don't care how good an environment is. If you're a third party, if you're a contractor, there would always be a time you will terminate your contract, right? The question is, what is the an effective way to make sure we terminate it in a proper, orderly way? I used healthcare as an example here, and we said, okay, in this case, they would announce the termination. They will retrieve patient data from this cloud care tech system. They would get inventory patient record and confirm the data is retrieved. They will make sure that they identify alternative if they are moving it in-house with their own team, or they are moving it to another third party. They would execute a transition plan. Can we all type that word, please? Everybody type transition plan. Those are big deal. Those are big words you will see. Most people will always ask you, do you have a transition plan? And don't overthink it. I'm just saying, all right, you're moving to another party. What is the plan to transition? It's a popular term out there. So type transition plan. Okay. Then, of course, at the end of the day, we would also have the support. Very important. There's always going to be support. And I'll tell you what I've seen from most vendors. because they want to keep the relationship. The fact that you terminated my contract today does not mean in a year from now you will not bring me back. So most people would always be at their professional best to every of their customers, especially if it's a big company, because it's always revolving. Yes, I was lucky to be with you for 5 years. You bring somebody else, you'll probably be fed up with those guys too in another 2 years and you kick them out, then you bring me back. So it's always, well, especially if you know the world of consulting, that's really the reality of it. There would always be a time that somebody will not be your team member really, or your buddy, and they will just kick you guys out. Then a new cycle, maybe another 5 years, you come back here to the same company, especially for the big organization. So it's always important, have a good transition plan, be a team player. Even when you leave and you're terminated, live in good blood, and you'll still come back maybe in another 2 years or 1 year. So it's the typical drill. All right. So that is the high level for this. Let me quickly jump to our use case again. And I'll tell you this before we jump into our exercise for tonight. Remember again, for us, we are sticking with healthcare in this program. Let's recap the story again for us all. Remember, this is an environment that we brought in MRI machine and CT scan machine. These are big equipments that are very expensive. They capture patient health information, they capture X-ray and medical records. Because of that, automatically they are HIPAA required to be compliance with, right? And you can compromise PHI, personal health information, because of that. So it's a big deal. So in our scenario, which we'll get to in a bit, we are going through a vendor selection process. So you would understand what it means to select a vendor. And ladies and gentlemen, don't overthink it. If you are bringing in two people that you ask to come and paint your home, you're going to do your due diligence before you choose, or you want to travel to Japan, you know, um, you're going to check the hotels and review the hotels. You're doing your due diligence and you're comparing the hotels. It's the same thing we do when we do vendor comparison, as simple as that. So this is just a background to say, okay, CT scan, blah, blah. The objective is to evaluate the vendor itself, understand the security features around them, understand their compliance standards, their cost effectiveness. So you will see us do that tonight and talk about it tonight, okay, in a bit. Then we're going to do vendor evaluation, meaning we're going to look at the vendors. Okay, vendor A, vendor B. We evaluate them based on certain criteria. Then we make decision. Our decision to select our vendor. In this case, it's healthcare. Let me ask you. Let's think together. All right. Let's forget for a second. Healthcare company. If you are selecting a vendor, tell me. Let's type it real quick. Tell me some of the things that will be your first consideration. I would like you all to type it. Thank you. And folks, if you don't mind, would appreciate if you can just go ahead and just like our page. Thank you so much. Just click the like button. It helps others to see our communication. So thank you. I like that. Reputation, HIPAA compliance. I love that. Loretta, you're awesome. I love that, Somi. The history, the compliance, the size of the vendor. If business is, you guys are awesome. That's really the core of it. And you guys will see it tonight. I wanted to just sneak in a little bit before we get into that in a bit. All right. So you guys get the gist of it. So definitely would have some criteria. Look at this, for example, HIPAA compliance, their data security measures. So we are looking at all of this in terms of our consideration in general. So I agree with you. That makes perfect sense. Then, of course, we are looking at, are they reliable in terms of their data security? How do you integrate them? What kind of support do they have? Their uptime. There are a lot of things we consider, right? Don't sweat that part of it, but I just want you to know it's just like selecting a vendor in your house for, internet service provider. I can assure you, first, all of us will say, well, is it fast? Do they break? Do they have good support if my system is down, the downtime, right? So you're thinking of all of this like any other person also. So it's the same thing, really. Then, of course, risk assessment will be done at some point, to really understand the nuances of each of the vendors, to see the risk they bring at the end of the day. So that's going to be something we keep checking all the time also. And this is just showing you third party life cycle in general. And what does it entail? Risk identification, risk assessment, we have to do our due diligence and selection, the contract negotiation, we keep monitoring it, we do our risk mitigation, then we terminate it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the life cycle in general for third party vendors in general. So this is a life cycle, end to end. At the end of the day, everybody will be terminated. Everybody will eat breakfast. Really, you have to leave. If it's not your personal business, at some point, your contract will be terminated. Right, at some point. So the key is just to make sure it's done properly. There's transition plan. You keep relationship. Another 2 years, you're probably back, and that's the way it works really in this space. All right, cool. So now let's go to the sweet part of it. Now, um, the sweet part of it, I will run through this again because you guys will see this in your work later. This is in our case, we have to select cloud service providers, right? And you guys know all the big names there. At least we can remember AWS, Google, Azure, Google Cloud. Those are the big ones out there generally, and some other ones out there. We're trying to select each of those vendors, and in this case, we are saying, okay, what are the criteria we need to look at to select a vendor for cloud service, for example? I'm saying their compliance, their scalability, their technical support, their disaster recovery potentially. So these are the things that I'm looking for at any point in time for you know um, vendor selection in general. Then, of course, the data security also for the vendor also it's a big one. Then, of course, in terms of compliance, I'm saying, okay, are they EPA compliance? Are they following advanced encryption? Are they doing regular audits? So those are things I'm thinking of. Disaster recovery and backup. How do they do recovery process? And do they constantly back up their files? Those are the big ones for us, right? Then their technical support. How do they store data? You know, most of them have data centers. These are the questions you're going to ask them in real time. Then uptime and reliability. What's their uptime? How scalable are they in terms of can they scale to other system? Can they integrate with other system? You're asking all of those questions in general. Then of course we have to agree cost is also a big deal. What is the cost implication and cost effectiveness? You would agree with me. Most of us go to the cloud because of cost, bulk of the time, right? All right, cool. So now let's jump into the core of the work we're going to be doing in a few minutes. So let me show you all real quick. This is the meat of it for us all. And if you are not on our WhatsApp group, please kindly join the group. The group I sent the file already, so you should have access to the file for all of us. Let me quickly make sure. Let me send this. 1 second. If you don't have access to the file, can you just tell me? Can you just tell me you don't have access to the file? If you are here and you don't have access to the file, just tell me you don't have access to the file. Can you type it so that I can resend it to the WhatsApp group? But you have to be in the WhatsApp group to have access to this. So I'm going to share that with us right now. Everybody, please kindly just jump to the WhatsApp group if you don't mind. All right, let me quickly show you guys and pick the document up real quick. This is the one we're going to work on. Please take the document serious. This is really what a lot of people would be actually doing in real time. They might use solutions for it. And, I'll tell you guys about a solution we use. For those of you, a lot of you might be interested in learning a GRC tool to do all of the things we've been doing. Somebody said, I don't have access. I'll send that link to you. Now, if you are on this call and you want to learn how to use a solution, I'm thinking about a lot of you have asked me already. So we have a tool, a partner tool we use. We might just run it's a 2-3 hours class so that you can, everything you're doing manually, you can use the tool to do it. Um, it might have a cost implication because it's a third party tool we are using for it, right? So, but it's a good tool. Today, for example, we had one of our team members was working on a project and we had to go through their solution together to see it in real time. And the solution is similar to the one we use, so not a big deal. But let me quickly show you guys this screen. All right, so let me show you guys real quick. So let's quickly see this real quick. but I recommend definitely just plug in there. Very important. So you can have a skill added to your tool. All right. So let me show you guys. Let me talk about this real quick. Most of you can see the screen. If you can't, I've already sent this document to the WhatsApp group. Can you guys give me 1 second, please, so that I can give me a second to send it again to some of our folks that are telling me they don't have it. Can you guys just give me 1 second while I send it to everyone else? Give me 1 second, if you don't mind. While you guys look at this, let me just be able to send it to the larger group. 1 second, please. Thank you. 1 second to send this to. Hello, hello, hello. All right. If you're not in the group, I'm going to send to you real quick right now the link to the internship group. You can quickly join, and then I'll share the document real quick. All right, I just shared the document, the link to the group, and I'm going to upload. I'm going to share the document right now in the group. All right, just go ahead and I just shared the document right now again. Just pick it up from there. And for some of you that has, if you want to be part of our group, our reading club to learn and build your mind, I send that also. Okay, thank you. I saw you, Oladimeji. You just joined. Okay, good. Excellent. Okay, all right. I sent the link to the chats real quick. All right. Thank you, everybody. All right, let's get back to business. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all. Okay, thank you all for your patience. All right, thank you all. I think we've shared it with most of us, so we should be good. If you can hear me loud and clear, give me thumbs up real quick, just to make sure I'm not speaking to myself. Give me thumbs up. Tell me yes, no. If you can hear me, can you all hear me? Yes, no. If you can hear me, let me know. Thank you. Can you all hear me? Thank you. All right, good. Okay, we're good. Okay, let's talk about this. And ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you're part of the group on Saturday. That is where we do our working session. Wednesday is really meant for me to talk about it. All right, let's talk about this vendor selection. Ladies and gentlemen, don't make it fancy, really. This company is called Green Valley Health System. It's a big healthcare provider in the Pacific Northwest. They just upgraded their radiology department. The aim was to bring in state-of-the-art MRI and CT scan machine, right? CT scanning machines. Big deal. So what happened is that they have to build certain criteria to select, the vendors. So you can see here, look at their criteria: equipment specification, security features. You can see vendor A, vendor B, vendor C. So I want you to take a look at the selection criteria. If you are doing vendor evaluation, this is what you do, right? In the case of MRI machine, they are using this, but for any other machine or equipment server, they will be similar. We might change a few nuances, but everybody is going to think about security feature, compliance standard, training and support, cost and financial option, vendor reputation and review, These are things we have to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, in an interview, I need you to say, I was involved in vendor evaluation, because that's what it is really. You're evaluating vendors. You're checking. I mean, like I said, you ask two painters to come in and bring their quotation, right? And you're evaluating both of them. Which one has a better record, better review, or you're choosing a hotel for vacation? It's the same thing. Vendor selection or vendor evaluation is the same thing, right? The criteria might be different in which you are using to assess, but it's the same thing. Okay. So that's the first part. Second part, this is so, go through that. We'll deal with the details in our Saturday class. Let's go to section two. Section two is so cool. We are selecting a cloud service provider. This is another cool one. Let me tell you why it's so cool. Cloud service provider is like everybody's going to need to select one, almost guaranteed. Every environment in the world today is going to the cloud. We can agree on that. So it means the selection process for cloud service provider is also a big deal. Now, look at the popular one here: data security, HIPAA compliance, disaster recovery, scalability of service. It's the same healthcare. Don't forget though, folks. First thing was we are saying the MRI and CT scan. We put the criteria for the selection. The second thing is that because those MRI and CT scan, we want them to connect all the network and all the activities to the cloud. Because of that, we have to select the right cloud service provider. That's what we're doing here, right? So in this case, we have vendor A and vendor B. Their questionnaires we give to them, because questionnaires is what will make you determine whatever they say to you would determine how you would respond to their comments or their feedback, right? So if you tell me you have this, then I can make my decision based on you know, your response. So at the end of the day, right? So, and this is a continuation of it: data storage, the cost, the training, uptime and reliability, performance and speed. The first one was for the machinery itself. The second one was for the cloud. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't overthink it. You want to buy an equipment, MRI machine, and CT scan. They store our X-ray and our personal health information. If they are compromised, we can be sued. It can become a mess. It will affect our reputation. It's bad for business at the end of the day. So we are saying, before we select a vendor, let's do our due diligence. Then we said we also want to move to the cloud. All the information these machines are storing is going to the cloud. We are now selecting our cloud service provider, vendor A and vendor B. So that's what we are analyzing and assessing right now. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, please kindly like our page. Like our page, it helps us to have more people to come to our community. That's all we can do. The third part, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been part of our class one, you would have done this, but guess what? It's coming back to you all. We are also coming back to risk assessment. For your cloud service provider, we still need to do risk assessment. All right. So this is another cool one. You thought you've run away from risk assessment from class one, right? Week one. No. In vendor process, also, there is risk assessment, because for us to do effective due diligence, risk assessment must be part of the process also. So you can see here we have data security, for example. We said what security measures are in place. Look at the vendor response here, everybody. The vendor response would let us determine the impact, the likelihood, the overall risk, and the CMI score. So I did a few here. I would like us to do one together. You know what I did here? I said, this is where you come in. You are going to work as a team here. In your group on Saturday, we're going to work on this together. The one I said update, right? But let's do one together. Let's talk about cost, transparency, and pricing. I asked this vendor, how is your pricing structured? They said, clear competitive pricing with no hidden fees. Let me ask you all, how would you grade the impact on this one? You tell me and I'll put it there. How would you want to grade the impact? I want you all to tell me, then I'll add it. Tell me what you think the impact should be. What do you guys think? Do you think it's going to be high, medium, low? What do you think? Let's go. First one. We'll do one together, then we'll work on the other ones together later. What do you think? Then tell me the likelihood and the overall risk. If they don't have clear pricing, what's the impact on us? Okay, somebody said medium. Okay, I can do medium too. Somebody said low. Yeah, I can do low or medium really because we can rationalize it and justify it. What about for the likelihood? What do you guys think for likelihood? Let me see. Likelihood. Okay, some of us have. Now, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, get used to it. It's very subjective. Okay. Um, Most time we do risk assessment, it's always we bought it really. We always do back and forth. It's part of the process. Don't take it personal. There are tricks around it. One of the tricks is always give people your initial thought and ask them if they don't mind, if they disagree, let them put what they think with a comment. So that before you go to the meeting, it's not going to be a lot of back and forth. If not, I've been part of a risk assessment that took 2 months. Not because we meet every day, but because we meet at times that works for everybody. It was just a nightmare. We never agree on anything. Sometimes we attend on the call. It was just a disaster, really. At the point I just said, listen, man, we got to just, you have to fill the form first. I mean, I learned from that experience that, man, don't waste your time because you will never agree on stuff. So, when we work in a group, some of you will disagree and it's subjective. Don't take it personal. It's just because as long as it's reasonable and if you can rationalize it, then people are reasonable. They can see the sense in it. Then that makes sense. We can work together on that. Okay. All right. I agree. I can take medium on that or low too, really, if it's reasonable. All right. What about the CMMI score? What do you guys think if we score it based on our own thinking generally that okay, how do we assess this? How would you score it? All right. Okay, three. Okay, I like that. Three, three, four. Remember again, whatever you score it, no big deal. As long as it's reasonable, we can always live by it. Okay, not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. All right, excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, cool. All right, let's take the final one, folks. Let's take the final one. The final part is, we have 4 section. Man, this is if you take the time to go through each of these sections, ladies and gentlemen, your life and some of my I know Mr. Edoze is probably on the call. One of our mentors is into third parties, and Mr. Joe and a few of our other folks, and I'm sure they can agree with all what we're doing here. It's a lot of you guys are making you put a lot of stuff. One, you're doing vendor evaluation. The second one, you're doing selection of cloud service provider. The third one, I'm making you do risk assessment of the vendor. The fourth one, I will get into discussion of some of the key things and best practices for that third party risk management lifecycle. All right, if you guys don't mind, let's take a 1 minute, 2 minutes break, and we will be back. So when we come back, we'll take the final lap, and it will be fun, folks. Let's just take a restroom break or whatever break you want to do. Let's do that for the next 2 minutes. Let's go. 2 minutes. All right. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Let's go for the final lap, folks. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. We'll be done in another 5 minutes. Okay. So let's talk about this. This is a very exciting one, also, ladies and gentlemen. It's exciting because this one really gets into some of the common risk in terms of, you know, uh, the life cycle in general. So let's quickly talk about it. So, top on the list, if you notice here, let's go to risk identification in general. What are the potential issues that could happen with risk identification? You know, um, there could be potential data breaches and non-compliance with HIPAA, right? If there is no risk identification. So, how do we address that? We have to conduct regular assessments and internal audits. Number two, there could be risk assessment issue, you know, high risk of data breach due to inadequate security measure. And how do we mitigate that? We have to continuously evaluate potential impact of a breach in general, right? What about due diligence and selection? If we don't do it, what are the potential issues? You know, it can immediately impact us in terms of our reputation, you know, and there could be compliance issues that are hidden because of lack of our due diligence. So it's important to always do the due diligence side of things. What about contract negotiation? You know, whether we like it or not, a lot of companies in developing or developed world, they are bounded by many legislation that they can't take bribe. For example, there's anti-money laundering laws. So if you cut corners as a result of a contract negotiation, then the reputation of your organization is going to be damaged, and this could lead to excessive fines, damaging your reputation, of course, and it's a big deal. Monitoring is going to be something we have to always remember. Ongoing monitoring is always going to be our lifestyle because you have to continuously have a process to, monitor monitor your organization and your due diligence, your contract process. Every one of these, there should be a quality assurance process in general. Risk mitigation, of course, at the end of the day, all the gaps you identify is not good enough to identify gaps without a plan to fix it. And I tell you one thing, most leadership, they will be respectful, but they honestly don't care when you tell them problems if you don't provide solution. They will not really respect you. Really, if they want to be blunt, if they are speaking to you as a leader of a company, they will be blunt and say, listen, man, I can do bad all by myself. You don't need to, I know I'm bad already, really. So it's not nothing new. The value is, okay, what can we do to fix this? Right. So make sure you take it a step further. Termination strategy, think about it. If we don't have a strategy of termination, it can be a disaster for you because if you terminate a contract and there's no transition plan, there's no plan of moving to another party internally or externally, then you're going to obstruct business. You're going to potentially lose revenue. It's a big deal, right? So we need to do due diligence. So every one of these are potential areas you can talk about in interviews within your third party program. What are some of the issues you identified? These are the things. That's why I put this together, so you can use it as a way to kind of highlight and state issues you identified and the way you addressed it. Okay. So leverage it big time. In our session on Saturday, I'll make you interview people on third party risk randomly based on this question. We're going to do quiz on Kahoot. We're going to interview ourselves also on Kahoot also and have fun doing it. So that's all we got for tonight. Please do us a favor if you don't mind, folks. Thank you all for being an amazing team. For most of us, I sent two links. One of them is for our ROM. Our ROM is a group we put together to leverage for reading because we genuinely believe everything starts with the mind, ladies and gentlemen. If the mind is right, everything else will align. So I challenge you, join our reading club and also like us, give us a thumbs up. It's the way more people will be part of our community. If we're adding value to you, the least we can do is bring other folks. Let's keep adding value. We can't do this alone. We do it with your help, with your support. And above all, I wish you Godspeed. Let's see you on Saturday. Let's make the best out of this, folks. You guys are awesome. Thank you all. Talk soon, everybody. See you on Saturday. Join the ROM group. Let me see if I can share that link again. Or I will also share it in our internship group. Join our ROM group. It's a great group for reading. Beware of scammers. Don't let anybody fool you. We will never call you for any personal stuff. All right. God bless. Talk to you all soon. Bye bye, everybody.